Let's jump into some basketball talk.
Hmm.
You know how everyone always says Michael Jordan is like the Jew-8, the greatest of all time?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, today we're going to kind of do a deep dive into this article from the Sporting Blog by Roger Cumberbatch. And he basically makes this whole argument for why MJ deserves that title.
Okay, interesting.
So we're going to break down like all of Jordan's stats and his impact on the court, off the court, and really try to understand like what makes a player the Jew-8.
Yeah, it's a great question to explore, for sure. Even just trying to define greatness in basketball is it's tricky.
Yeah.
Cumberbatch points out that championships alone don't really give you the whole story.
Right.
Like, think about Bill Russell, for example. He's got 11 rings, but he's not always in that Gorty conversation.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So if it's not just about rings, then what else matters?
Right.
The article brings up Shaq and LeBron James as examples.
Okay.
Shaq was like super dominant, but you know, he isn't always considered the best center ever. And then LeBron has 10 finals appearances, but only 4 wins.
Right.
How do those guys like factor into the goatee debate?
I think it's all about context. You have to consider the era that they played in the competition, the style of the game. Like, for example, the way that centers were used.
He dives into Jordan's stats.
Yeah.
And wow, they are impressive. 10 scoring titles, 3 steals leader awards.
Oh.
And a Defensive Player of the Year award. I mean, that's dominating on both ends of the court.
And that's what sets him apart from a lot of other great scorers, is that two-way dominance, you know? Excelling at both offense and defense.
Yeah.
It's one thing to put up huge points, but to also be recognized as like the best defender in the league in a season, that's incredibly rare.
Totally. Makes you wonder how anyone ever scored on him.
Right.
Okay, so there's this crazy what-if moment in the article about the 1984 draft.
Oh, yeah.
So the Portland Trailblazers had the 2nd pick.
Okay.
And they passed on Jordan because they already had Clyde Drexler, who was a great guard in his own right.
Oh, wow.
Could you imagine if Jordan had landed in Portland?
It's easy to look back now and say that it was a huge mistake.
Yeah.
But at the time, it wasn't totally crazy. Portland needed a center, and they went with Sam Bowie, who is a highly touted prospect. Yeah. Back then, the thinking was to build your team around a dominant center, and Bowie seemed to fit that mold.
Interesting. So they were trying to like fill a need.
Yeah.
Even if it meant passing on a potential superstar.
Right.
It's still mind-blowing to think how different the NBA might have looked if Jordan had gone to Portland.
For sure.
Okay, let's shift gears for a sec and talk about Jordan's impact beyond the court.
Okay.
I'm talking about like the Air Jordan phenomenon. Cumberbatch talks about how Jordan's deal with Nike like revolutionized the business world.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It was a total game changer. I mean, athlete endorsements existed before Jordan, obviously, but nothing on this scale.
Right.
His partnership with Nike created this cultural phenomenon that went way beyond sneakers.
And the numbers are insane. After signing Jordan, Nike stock exploded, going from $40.7 million to $2.5 billion.
Yeah.
That's a whole other level of dominance.
That's the power of Jordan's brand. He wasn't just a basketball player. He became like a global icon, influencing fashion, music, pop culture, everything.
Yeah.
And that impact is still felt today.
Oh, for sure.
Wow.
Speaking of global impact, we have to talk about the Dream Team.
Okay.
The article mentions how Jordan stood out even amongst the NBA's best players in the 1992 Olympics.
Yeah, the Dream Team was more than just a basketball team. It was like a global event that showed off the best of American basketball to the world.
Right, and it helped solidify basketball as a truly international sport.
Yeah.
But even with all those superstars on the court, Jordan's presence was just undeniable. He just had this like aura about him.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
We talked about championship stats, his impact on the game, and even his influence on like business and culture.
Yeah.
So the big question is Michael Jordan really the GOAT? The article makes a strong argument for it.
Cumberbatch really emphasizes how Jordan's dominance on the court, combined with his unprecedented global impact, makes him a serious contender for that Joe-8 title.
Yeah.
But as we've been discussing, it's a complex debate with different ways to measure greatness.
For sure. And that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. There's no easy answer.
Right.
What stands out to you as the most compelling part of Jordan's story so far?
What's fascinating to me is how Jordan's intensity translated to every aspect of his career, both on and off the court. Whether he was guarding an opponent driving to the basket or building his business empire, He brought the same relentlessness and drive for excellence.
That's a great point. It's like that competitive fire fueled everything he did.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a quick pause here, and we'll be back in a moment to dive deeper into the Jordan legacy and see how his story stacks up against other contenders in the Joy debate. Welcome back to our deep dive on Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
We were talking about how Jordan's competitive fire seemed to fuel everything he did.
Yeah.
The article highlights a specific example where it mentions that entire offenses had to, change their plays based on where Jordan was on the court defensively.
Oh, wow.
Think about that for a second.
Mm.
Teams were so concerned about Jordan shutting down their plays
Right.
that they had to adjust their entire strategy just to avoid him.
That's wild. That's a level of respect that few players ever earn.
Right. It's like he was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. And remember, we're not just talking about defense.
Yeah.
Cumberbatch really emphasizes how Jordan dominated on both ends of the court, which is what made him so special.
Absolutely. Plenty of players are known for their scoring or their defense.
Yeah.
But to be truly elite at both
Right.
is incredibly rare.
Yeah.
That's what makes the term two-way dominance so fitting for Jordan.
Okay, get this. The article mentions that Jordan once scored 49 points in a game where his jersey had been stolen.
What? No way.
Yeah. He had to wear number 12 that night.
Wow.
And it's still the highest score ever by a player wearing that number.
Classic Jordan. Even when faced with something totally unexpected, he found a way to dominate.
Right.
Speaks to his mental toughness and ability to rise to the occasion.
For sure. That mental toughness really showed up in the clutch, too.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in the finals. I mean, the guy never lost a final series.
His reputation for hitting those game-winning shots is legendary.
Yeah.
You can't always measure clutch performances with stats alone.
Right.
It's about that intangible ability to stay calm and deliver when the pressure is highest.
Right. It's like he thrived on those pressure-packed moments.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time talking about what Jordan did on the court.
Yeah.
What about his impact off the court? The Air Jordan effect, as Cumberbatch calls it, is a whole other chapter in his story.
And a chapter that changed the entire game for athletes and businesses. Jordan's approach to business was just like his approach on the court.
Totally.
Relentless, strategic, and ultimately unstoppable.
The article describes it as off-court dominance, which I think is the perfect way to put it.
I agree.
His partnership with Nike didn't just sell sneakers. It built a global brand that still resonates today.
What's so interesting is that Jordan's business success didn't overshadow his basketball achievements.
Yeah.
It actually made him an even bigger icon. It was this amazing feedback loop where his on-court success fueled his business ventures and his business savvy just amplified his global fame.
So it's not just about talent or skill, it's also about how he leveraged his success to build something bigger than himself.
For sure.
That's a powerful lesson for anyone, not just athletes, but even beyond business. Jordan's legacy continues to inspire generations of players.
Oh, yeah.
His signature moves, his competitive spirit, it's all woven into the fabric of basketball culture.
It's true. We're talking about a figure who inspires debate, awe, and fascination decades after he retired. His story transcends basketball itself.
Totally.
And that's what makes him so compelling.
So after examining all the evidence, the stats, the impact, the legacy, where do you personally land on the Michael Jordan GOAT debate? Is he the undisputed greatest, or are there other contenders who deserve consideration?
It's a question that sparks endless discussions, and I think that's the beauty of it. There's no single right answer. Different fans will prioritize different things, championships, stats, impact, you name it.
For sure.
But for me, it's hard to deny the weight of Jordan's accomplishments.
Yeah.
His perfect finals record, his scoring titles, his Defensive Player of the Year award.
Yeah.
All those things highlight his extraordinary talent.
And when you factor in his global reach, his impact on popular culture, and his enduring brand, it paints a pretty convincing picture.
Exactly. What makes Jordan so unique is that he represents a convergence of athletic excellence, competitive spirit, and cultural influence. He's a once-in-a-generation athlete who truly transcended the sport itself.
Well said. But even if you don't consider him the undisputed Joe, there's no question that Michael Jordan is one of the most influential and captivating figures in the history of sports. His story continues to inspire and captivate no matter where you stand in the Joe debate.
Absolutely. And that speaks to the power of sports storytelling. It's about more than just wins and losses. It's about the characters, the rivalries, the moments that connect with us on a deeper level.
And speaking of connections, I want to turn things over to you, our listener. What does Michael Jordan's legacy mean to you? Where do you stand on the Joe debate? We'd love to hear your thoughts. We've been unpacking